Dear students, good evening. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 23rd November 2020. The first article for discussion, a leaf from Stacey Abrams' book. Let us try to understand few things about her. She is an African American Democrat from Georgia State in United States of America. In USA, if you go by history, African Americans were denied with various rights. Even today, the discrimination exists over there. In Georgia, more than 30% of the voters, these are African American. There is something specific there which is called voter suppression. It means if they go to any government office, they create all kinds of bureaucratic hurdles for not getting themselves registered as voters. Second, when election is being held, the polling booths are placed in such a way that it is logistically difficult for these poor people to reach to the polling booths and vote. In this context, Stacey Abrams' work is about active citizenship. She formed an organization that is called Fair Fight Foundation. Through this, she took a constitutional responsibility, that is to register the voters for election. Everyone and everyone's voice shall matter. In this case, citizens have to unlearn their historical process of loss of agency or decision making in their lives and shall get actively engaged with political process. Let us see in the case of India. Dalits, minorities, etc., they also have lost the agency on their lives slowly over a period of time. If you take about Dalits, the social conditioning and the socio-economic levels of living have made them indifferent to the political process. If they are actively engaged in the political process, the system could have been very different. The sense of equality and policy priorities will objectively change for the betterment of everyone. So this is where comes active citizenship. How can we define active citizenship as? It habituates the citizens to utilize their agency in decisions of the state. If something is affecting your life, you shall be able to raise your voice, express your concerns, or express your support. This is what we call it as active citizenship. If we go by this definition, what we have in India is called passive citizenship. We vote and we forget many a times. Many of the times we don't even go to the polling booth to vote. So we have to move from this passive citizenship to active citizenship that engages the citizenry in day-to-day decision making in various affairs of the state. And it has to start from using your responsibility to vote. That is what this article is all about. The next article is No Minister, the Trade Agreement Pitch is Flawed. It is about External Affairs Minister Mr. Jaishankar's statement that free trade agreements are a reason for India's deindustrialization. Here, author clearly states that globalization indeed has helped India and we are failing to appreciate the things. The inward looking process is actually hurting India today and also tomorrow. In tomorrow, the situation is expected to be worse. That is what Mr. Aravind Subramanian's statement says. So let's analyze, did globalization did good or bad to India? Globalization, if we observe, it has facilitated export-led growth to India. The export growth of India was third highest between 1995 and 2018. It is at the rate of 13.4% on average. And next, poverty reduced more than 20% during the period of this liberalization in India. And above all, this export growth also led to the manufacturing growth in India, which is close to 9.5%. So if we observe by these statistics, we can say globalization has facilitated better economic opportunities and also economic growth for India. On the other side, why India is poorly performing today, as stated by External Affairs Minister? Is globalization just an alibi, or we are trying to sidetrack the main narrative? Let us see this. 1. Today, rupee appreciation is very high. Almost 20% since 2014 when Modi has come to power. When rupee appreciates, automatically our exports becomes non-competitive. Once the exports becomes non-competitive, obviously the demand for them will go down. Second is, in India there are many unseen costs to the exports. Let me put it this way. We have no robust port facilities. Obviously, the cost of waiting is high. Logistics are poor, infrastructure is poor, red tape is high, bureaucratic procedures are worse. In this context, the cost to the competition or competitive price, our goods are going to come down. Do we have any international brands? Probably not. So we are going to compete in a labor intensive products like textiles, etc. In that case, the countries such as Vietnam, Bangladesh, they have specific advantage over India. So, making our products competitive is the way forward, and moving away from globalization is not the right choice, at least at this moment of time when India is facing an economic crisis that is never seen before. The next article is Pressure and Punishment. This is about terror financing and terror infrastructure in Pakistan. How to handle this terror infrastructure in Pakistan? Many times, when India put forward various dossiers on terror financing and other infrastructure in Pakistan, world was silent. But Mumbai terror attack is a game changer because citizens of many countries got involved. They are being murdered. In this case, Lashkar-e-Toiba was behind that. Mr. Hafiz Saeed is the mastermind of that. This man was convicted by a Lahore court on against terrorism recently. He is also an UN designated terrorist. How come a person close to Pakistani military was punished by a court in a civilian court in Pakistan? That's where comes the importance of international pressure. Let us understand this way. FATF has kept Pakistan continuously in grey list because it failed to take various listed actions. In this context, this Financial Action Task Force keeping Pakistan in grey list, it has made the things worse for Pakistan on economic side. So what we can take home is, if international pressure is kept in the right direction, then the terror network in Pakistan can be effectively controlled. Next is peaceful possibilities. There is cacophony of democracy, noise of democracy. But this noise enlarges the popular participation and also sense of stakeholdership and contribution to the democracy. See this carefully. In Jammu and Kashmir, after repeal of this Article 370 for the first time, elections are being held. That is for local government. For the first time, 73rd, 74th Amendment Acts are coming into full force in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, what is the danger? When you are using elections as a narrative, as nationalism versus anti-nationalism, like these binaries when they are created, these elections rather than contributing to the popular participation, they become very divisive. When it is coming from none other than the Home Minister, then the divisive notions are going to be much worse. Already Jammu and Kashmir, these two regions are more and more demographically very divided. In this scenario, fueling the divides is not good for the future of this state. And we need to understand that it is very sensitive position geographically and strategically. That is the point we need to take care of. Next is, in vaccine race last lap, the key steps for India. Here we try to understand what is this vaccine race. You know, Pfizer, Moderna, and Oxford, all these vaccines are coming up. Then what shall be the best vaccine? What traits it has to have? It has to provide highest possible level of immunity, you all know that. So it has to provide broad scale immunity across various variants or traits, and then easily administrable. After that, side effects has to be minimal, no side effects. And then programmatically suitable. What does that mean? Let's take if 3 doses of vaccines have to be given. Then it can be stated as programmatically unsuitable. So these characters have to be there for any ideal vaccine. What is the approach India can take in administering this vaccine? One is, we need to have a priority list. Healthcare workers, police, frontline staff are people who are important for national protection. Like that, we need to develop a list. And second is vulnerable population. If these are not being given a vaccine immediately, probably their life is at risk. And finally, we have to address the concerns of equity and access. Every poor man also shall get the vaccine in this country. And we also need to keep in point that is a strategy. Here, the author talks about a strategy that is called a ring immunization strategy. What is meant by this ring immunization strategy? It means we can say it this way. Let us take a person is identified. You can give the vaccine as a priority to all the people in that particular locality. In that case, the entire locality gets immunized against that particular disease. That ring immunization strategy can be evolved. Finally, shall we allow for private people to buy the vaccine in the open market? Obviously, it will decrease the burden on the government. It can be allowed so that affordable people can go and buy the vaccine in the open market. So these are the points. Coming to news, uproar over Kerala law to curb abusive content. Now, there is a lot of talk about loss of freedom of expression, speech, and everything. Responsible freedom of expression. This is the word I want to use. Every freedom of speech or expression has to come with the notion responsible. Shame and humiliation, these are stronger reactions. And this shame and humiliation, cyberbullying, has become a norm online. You can open just with a mail ID and YouTube channel and you can start bullying someone. That is nothing but nonsense. So, public humiliation has got a huge cash reward today because whenever someone is humiliated, we click on that. So, when we click on that, that converts into a revenue. That's why for these hapless people are the people who want to thrive on some humiliation. These need punishment, in my opinion. But at the same time, there is a chance that it can be misused. Yesterday, I was watching on The Price of Shame by Miss Lewinsky. She was in the Miss Clinton's scam or whatever we call it as. It is there in TED Talks. If you can observe that, many of the responses are to grab attention rather than having an intention. In that case, a responsible freedom of speech or expression is essential everywhere, even it is in social media or on online platforms. I strongly believe a country need a regulation on social media. It is not an holy cow. It is nothing but a capitalistic instrument. That's what in my opinion. Rawat calls for dual use facilities. Today, defense budget in India is coming down like never before. What is the reason? We have the economic crisis. In this case, how to maximize our efficiency in providing various facilities, both for military or civilian. We are developing civilian infrastructure, let's take. When we are developing the highways, if we develop them to the superior possible quality, they can be used even for military purposes. Second is trawlers or space equipment or space assets, what I mean is, or we talk about telecommunications, everything, if we can develop it to the standards of military, obviously our budget to military, even if it decreases, it does no harm. So that's a good point which is brought in by Chief of Defence Staff, Mr. Bipin Rawat. Next is Arunachal Pradesh CM pushes for highway along Tibet border. See carefully, recently a railway line which is coming from Xinjiang province, it is going to touch the Arunachal border. This infrastructure development necessarily sends certain panic moments to India. In this case, Mr. Pema Khandu, he is the Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister, stated that India has to develop a frontier highway covering the entire northeast. It is essential to protect India from any external invasion. Next is India, Thailand, Singapore naval exercise concludes. We normally read about SIMBEX. This is the maritime exercise of India, Singapore. Now we got SIT MX. So the SIT MX is a trilateral exercise between Singapore, India, Thailand. It happened in Andaman Sea. Finally, Japanese grant to strengthen Maldives Coast Guard. When Mr. Mike Pence visited India, he also visited Maldives and Defense Pact was signed. And you know that Maldives today have India first policy. India is also developing greater what is that Malay project, a logistics and infrastructure project there. During the previous regime, Maldives moved very close to China. In this context, Maldives getting exposure to US and also to Japan is a very positive development for India. These are articles for today. This is Dr. Ram Babu signing off for Law Excellence. Thank you very much.